Hello, you're listening to the G.O.A.T Pod. This is a podcast where we discuss the best-selling albums of all time. Hosted by Jason Purrier, Stephen Schott, Daniel Brown, and me, Jared Slusher. Now let's go ahead and dive into today's episode.
What's crackin'-lackin', ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the G.O.A.T Pod.
Hi, Jason.
Today? Hi, Beans. Speaking of beans, I want to jump right into it. Let's break some ice. Let's break the ice. Did you ever play that game as a kid? Break the ice.
I know the Britney Spears
mallets
song.
and the little
When you
ice
get
cubes
ice and
and the little.
you break it.
Yeah, you had to break it and not have the polar bear fall. Yeah,
I've done that a
No, I
lot
didn't play
lately,
that.
but that's because I
Polar
work
bears
in
aren't
youth
real.
ministry.
yeah, there it is.
Oh, those are ice
So-
break. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's break the ice on this pod. What is y'all's favorite white American food? Let me explain. Not that it has to be the
Elaborate,
color
that's-
white. Not that it has to be the color white. But think about, like, you go to have dinner at, like, a family that's all white. It doesn't have a lot of seasonings. This does not count white people taco night. That is not.
Oh, man.
That's just
dude.
topping off of. That's like a bad alternative of another culture's food.
It's my favorite Wednesday.
That's fair.
So like something that you would have on the table, say like 1950s housewife, or the lady that like takes care of the kids on the Brady Bunch.
Okay.
I would call her a nanny, but she's not. She's kind of a nanny. She's kind of like a maid.
Aunt
but she also
B.
makes. I don't know. She does a lot of things. If she would make it, if Aunt B would make it in the Andy Griffith Show, that kind of vibe. What is your favorite white American food?
I have one.
Beans. Start us out.
Thank you for picking me first, because I knew you were going to ask this for a long time, but not until right now have I thought of something.
Oh,
Nice.
That is pork chops.
Oh.
that's a good pick.
Yeah.
That's a
That's
a
good
good chops.
pick.
The best you can hope for with the seasoning, salt and pepper on the pork chops, but they were
Oh, we
They
did say
were-
white, didn't we?
but it was there, when I needed it, and there was always a bone somewhere in it that I had to pick around, but that's all right. Nothing easy is worth doing, and the bone makes it harder. So
That's how it's said. That's
Yeah,
how it's
that's
said.
right.
Dan, how would you say it?
Nope. No. There's no way.
Put that on the t-shirt.
Oh gosh, write a book, dude.
we don't have merch, but that's going to be on our T-shirt.
Dan, what would your favorite white American food be?
I'm gonna have to go with a good old grilled cheese with tomato soup.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
I was not expecting to go that route, but that's passable. I'll pass that.
Oh, good.
I did.
That's all
I
had.
did once see. I did once see that. Was that commercial where the kid's building a snowman outside and he comes in and the mom's got like that nice little bowl of tomato
right.
soup. With the,
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Oh
I
yeah.
think it's like a Campbell's soup commercial.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
Makes
The
it feel
kid's
nice
a
and
snowman.
cozy.
He comes in. He thaws out.
Yep.
It's a good commercial.
It is a good commercial.
We remember it.
All right, Jarrett.
I'm going to go the same kind of sandwich direction. I'm going to go with a bologna sandwich.
Okay.
Oh,
I don't know if I've ever had a bologna sandwich. To be
Yeah.
What
straight
else
up.
goes on your bologna sandwich?
Cheese.
if you say
you
American
frying
cheese,
the bologny,
So-
or you
so
just
it's-
cold bologna?
Growing up, it was always cold. But when I became a man, I have been more interested in the fried bologna sandwich.
I
Which
thought you
is
were going to
just,
say you would microwave it. You're like, I don't know why that's what
It's a metaphor.
Bread and all. The bread
Yeah.
just getting.
toast the bread, fry the bologna, melt the cheese, add some mayo. So
Oh,
that's so interesting. There's so many ways to make a bologna sandwich like really taste good, but us white folk just don't do none of that, and we just put the bologna, American cheese, which by the way, this might be a hot take, the worst kind of cheese, and then we
What's
put
the best
two
kind of
white
cheese?
pieces of bread. I don't know, but American cheese is just it's wax
It feels
And it's bad.
it feels like a day at the ballpark though.
It's cheese product is technically the
It is
official
true.
term for it.
Okay.
They can't legally call it cheese.
Jason, what's your answer?
I think I'm gonna have to go with. I think I'm gonna have to go with like biscuits and gravy. I like the white sausage gravy. That's actually
Yeah.
does,
That is
it's
good.
like the only thing that does have a little bit of spice because there's a little bit of kick in the sausage.
Man, the camp biscuits and gravy that get at camp, and if you've been to the same camp that three of us have been to, you know what I mean.
Which three?
I know. I was about to.
New Life Camp.
I never went for food there. I never had food there.
It was top tier. Oh my
I
gosh.
never slept
They
the night.
they would like get up super early and make the biscuits fresh that day.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
out of
only
a
went-
Pillsbury box. I don't know, but
don't know.
like they made it that morning.
Must be nice.
Well, there you go. Well, so just in case you were wondering, obviously you're listening to this. The reason I asked that question is tonight we're talking about one of the top tier white American foods, Meat Loaf,
That's right.
and his album "Bat Out of Hell," which is composed by Jim Steinman and is 22 million certified copies and 40 to 43 claimed. And in case you were wondering, as I'm sure you were, it was the best-selling album all time in Australia. So
Wow.
Crazy.
not American,
But they have
Still white.
tarantulas.
No,
just not
yeah,
American. But that's what we're getting into tonight. Let's talk a little Meat Loaf here. Jarrett, give us a little background.
Yeah. So Bat Out of Hell by Meat Loaf came out October 21st, 1977.
Another
So,
70s, man.
I know, man.
I'll go back
Same year as Rumors.
Rumors.
I
I've
forget
got
if
some
Rumors
more on
came
that.
out. Yeah. Forget if that came out in November or when, but around the same time. This was recorded 1975 through 1976, obviously by Jim Steinman and Meat Loaf. Jim Steinman was a composer for More Than You Deserve, which was a Broadway play in early 70s. And so Broadway was kind of where he got his start. That's where he and Meat Loaf meet. You may also know Jim Steinman from Total Eclipse of the Heart by Bonnie Tyler.
Wow.
He's the composer of
I
that
know
song. And It's All Coming Back to Me Now, originally by
Incredible.
Pandora's Box and covered by Celine Dion, which we talked about
Incredible.
a few episodes ago.
I can hear that
Wow.
now. I was like, it sounds like something I know, and that's the one I know.
Oh yeah.
And then Meat Loaf, also, born Marvin Leaday, but goes by Meat Loaf, met Jim Steinman while they were both doing stuff on Broadway, mostly through More Than You Deserve. And so Steinman had this idea for a futuristic rock version of Peter Pan, boy that never grows up, has a shadow that has to get sewn on, all that stuff. And so he makes music for that and essentially records it with Meat Loaf. And we're just going to make this an album thing. We're not going to make it a musical, but we're making an album and release it. And could not get anybody to sign them. And they went to so many labels. And one of my favorite things I found out as I was researching this was they went to Clive Davis, the executive of CBS Records. And he said, "Do you know how to write a song? Do you know anything about writing? If you're going to write for records, it goes like this: A, B, C, B, C, C. I don't know what you're doing. You're doing A, D, F, G, B, D, C. You don't know how to write a song. Have you ever listened to pop music? Have you ever heard any rock and roll music? You should go downstairs when you leave here and buy some rock and roll records."
Wow.
Is that a quote? That sounds
That
like
is,
a quote.
yeah. You can find that on Wikipedia. So that's the kind of backlash they were getting for making this record. So they couldn't find anyone to produce it, to put on a label until they meet Todd Rundgren, who you may know him from the groups Nas and Utopia. He's also done some producing for Grand Funk Railroad, Badfinger, and also is popular for being a solo producer, like producing his own stuff and putting that out, which was not very popular at the time. Generally, like if you know the Beatles and Fleetwood Mac and all the other people we've talked about so far, you are the artist, you have a record label, you have a producer, and that's how the record gets made. Todd Rundgren was, I'm going to do my own thing, and I'm going to put that out. So they meet up with Todd,
He
and
was sort of the
after
Kanye
hearing,
of his day.
He's
To
kind of
what?
like the first ever indie artist.
yeah, actually, yeah. And so he said he's going to produce the album after hearing the intro to Hot Summer Night. And I don't mean the
What?
musical intro. I mean the
What?
spoken word intro. Didn't even
What?
get through the whole thing. Is like, yeah, I'll produce this album.
What a weirdo.
And so
That's
That's sold him
that's
on
a
it?
pick.
that's what sold him on it. And we'll get to that in a minute. But he
Wow.
produces the
Holy
album
cow.
and gets them signed to Cleveland International and Epic Records. And they put out the record. That's how this got made.
Wow.
That's
It was
crazy.
really something.
You know, honestly, if there was anything to get me to not produce this album, I think exactly that
Yeah.
would be the thing.
Yeah.
You might have had planned to get to it later, but can you give us a little bit more context on why exactly that reading was the thing that gave us?
So essentially it was weird and it was different and it's something people weren't doing. And so that kind of intro to Todd Rundgren's mind was like, I need to put this out because no one else is doing anything like this.
Yeah.
That's
Which
fair.
is fair.
It
No
is
one else
a
was
very
doing anything
unique
like
album.
that.
To
Yeah.
quote
Yeah.
Bo Burnham, original doesn't mean good.
Thank you, Bo. Well,
Wow.
let's get into some of this a little bit more in depth. Daniel, can you give us our track listing for this
I
album?
got you. Starting off the album, gosh, one of the best intros to an album that I've heard this entire podcast, which is crazy given the number of great intros that we've had on this podcast. We'll start with Bat Out of Hell. That musical intro number is just incredible. We'll get more to that later, I'm sure. And that in Australia was the first single. First single, is that correct?
I think it was only released as a single in Australia.
In Australia. The lead single, You Took the Words Right Out of My Mouth, also called Hot Summer Night. The lead single, unique, all right? Heaven Can Wait, nothing special about that, besides the fact that, never mind, it's not a single. That's all you need to know. And to end side one, All Revved Up with No Place to Go, a single in the UK. On side two, we got 3 songs. We've got 2 Out of 3 Ain't Bad, which was a single, another single, Paradise by the Dashboard Light, top tier song, and For Crying Out Loud.
Yeah.
And that's
Nice.
7 songs.
So let's get into some of the lyrics and themes. And I think before we get into too far, I think we can all agree if you've never listened to this album, which I hope you have by the fact that you're listening to this podcast, or you're going to, and you say, a guy named Meat Loaf did an album. What you hear in this album is not what you expect from a guy named Meat Loaf.
Yeah.
No, what
But I
can
think
you
it works.
expect from a guy named Meat Loaf? Really?
Honestly, I didn't even look, to be completely honest, before we started this, or before I listened the first time. I didn't look to what year this came out. So
Okay.
I was just assuming pop punk was the assumption in my head.
I
Wow.
thought
And
heavy metal.
the intro comes in. But let's get into some of the themes and the lyrics we have going on through this album.
What do you get with the guy named Meat Loaf?
It's very over the top, like emotionally speaking, it's melodramatic, and it has like some operatic tendencies too, like as far as the storytelling, which it has that in common with The Wall,
Yeah.
Pink Floyd, which is a hot button issue in this group, but it's so in that way it's very dynamic as far as the lyrics and the themes. It's very much trying to tell a story, and the story is, to sum it up, it's let love destroy you, and it's about like rebellion and freedom.
Yeah.
And one thing I think probably one of my favorite lyrics that I heard in this came from Paradise by the Dashboard Light. And it was something like, I told you I would love you to the end of time, So now I'm praying for the end of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's sort of it's a funny comment on like how like intense and passionate you can feel in the moment, but it also makes this comment on like that passion and intensity doesn't last, and it sort of makes you wish for you know sort of makes you dread future moments where this feeling isn't going to be there.
Yeah.
It's like when there's a fairy tale and they just say they live happily ever after, but
Yeah.
really happily ever, I mean that's like they're going to live for another 40 years and then die of old age. So really you're just wishing for this moment to last forever, but you sort of know that it's not going to. And it is melodramatic, but they don't really take themselves too seriously as well in this album. Like there's a big like chunk of a song where there's just baseball commentary that is thinly veiled.
It's fantastic.
Rhetoric for sex, which is which I didn't care for that part, but but to sum up, it's rebellion, it's let love destroy you, it's ecstasy and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, this is the first album on this list that I had never listened to any of it, had no idea what any of the songs sounded like.
Me neither.
And
actually.
a semi-musical drama is not what I had in mind.
Yeah.
So I understand where some of the elements could have been taken from a musical, like about Peter Pan, as far as it like being very, not like teenagery, like it sounds like a kid wrote it, but it's like the same kind of drama that juniors, seniors in high school might have. Like falling in love and wanting to be in a commitment with somebody, but actually not really wanting to be in a commitment with someone until they die, because like we were just born. So I can see that conflict, and I can see how it's interesting how that plays throughout the whole thing. But there's also some moments where it's like, oh man, that actually is kind of deep and somewhat meaningful. And then you have a baseball scene. But
I want to say I think as far as like the irony and the humor of this album, I think one of the funniest responses to "Do You Love Me" is "Let Me Sleep on It."
Yeah.
That was pretty
I
great.
gotta know right now. Let me sleep on it.
I was listening to part of this album with my wife earlier, and
My wife?
I was like, "You need."
I can't not do it. I'm sorry.
But we were listening to Dashboard Light, and she was just like thrown, as it was like, all right, we're in like a song that kind of feels like a song that Elvis would have written, and then all of a sudden we're just like thrown across, and then all of a sudden we have the baseball commentary, and then all of a sudden it switches again, and she's just like, do you love me forever, and then again
last
it
3 minutes
completely switches again to Let Me Sleep on It, which is like different tempo, different like instrumentation, and then the end is like switched again, and she was just like, what is happening? But I feel like when you get into the idea of like it was written for like, imagine Peter Pan but at age 17 and not in Neverland, but like in a high school. But he's like, he's still Peter Pan. Like he's not going to grow up, and he can't grow up.
He rides a motorcycle.
And so like, but he's trying to do all the things that a crazed 17-year-old boy wants to do.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then like is trying to like react to that in time. And I think that's just a neat way of like putting it. I think it helps. I think it helps you understand the lyrics better. There's we got multiple quotes from Wikipedia tonight, but Steinman, because Jared did one, so I had to pull this one. There's just a lot of good quotes in the Wikipedia page for this one, so I was like, this is great. I need to figure out where this is actually from. It's technically from a DVD about this that Steinman was on.
Oh, okay.
Where he was talking about the writing. And he was like, the songs were written and they're personal, but they're not autobiographical. And what he says is, I never thought of them as personal songs in the terms of my own life, but they were personality songs. They are all about my obsessions and images. None of them take place in a normal world. They all take place in an extreme world, very operatic. They were all heightened. They don't take place in normal reality. And so it's like he took all these like feelings that he could have had at a time and said, all right, what if I took every feeling and took it to like the very end of everything?
Interesting.
And I think that's kind of a neat way of putting it. Also when like you see some of the like paradise type narratives where it's like there's really no paradise. It's just like all of these extreme emotions pushed to their limits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's from the Classic Albums documentary, which if you ever watch the series, we talk a lot about a lot of those albums.
Yeah.
There was one thing that I wanted to make sure we mention. It's like the tone that's set at the beginning. The first few lines are the sirens are screaming and the fires are howling way down in the valley tonight. Okay, so we're in the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's death and destruction everywhere.
Yeah.
There's a man in the shadows with a gun in his eye and a blade shining oh so bright. Okay, this is what you start us off with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's like, man, on top of the musicality that we'll get to in a second, like just as a tone setter, my goodness, Bat Out of Hell is a crazy good intro song. Crazy
Yeah.
The
good
album
lead.
cover is really says a lot too. It's
Yeah.
very
I feel like
apocalyptic.
that album cover exactly depicts that first line that you were mentioning, Dan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to take a quick guesses here, guys. The album cover is fantastic, and it was rated in Q Magazine in a list of the 100 best record covers of all time.
Oh dang.
Wow.
Where in the list is it? Like 1 to 100. What is your guess? Where it landed?
Mine's 15.
15?
Yeah.
7.
26.
Man, y'all think this is a great album cover. It was 71. But
Man, my first instinct was 85.
Well, we didn't go over.
you didn't
Yeah.
go over.
I was the
And
closest.
Whoever
I want
gets
that to be
highest,
noted.
you win. The Price is Right.
Yes.
Yeah. What are you, Dan? Why are you saying yes? Why are you trying to
thought you
take my
said higher.
moment?
I thought you
No,
said
I
lower
said
than
20.
me.
I said
Oh,
26.
I just like tuned out what you said.
He was
Come
gonna be
on,
right
man.
no matter what.
I like the way that it does describe. It depicts a motorcycle ridden by a long-haired man bursting out of the ground in a graveyard, and in the background, a large bat perches atop a mausoleum that towers above the rest of the tombstones.
You know, there's an opportunity to recreate this.
There, I don't know if we should, but there is an opportunity.
And speaking of creating things, when they were writing and recording Bat Out of Hell, the song, it didn't have that very last part where like the main character like gets in a crash and dies. It originally was like 5 minutes, and then he's like, I gotta keep going. And so like he writes this almost 10-minute epic about this motorcycle song. And Jim said he always wanted to make this amazing motorcycle song because he likes the motorcycle songs from the 50s and 60s. Like, I'm going to make my own. And so we got that.
I think he did it. I think he did it well.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's take that. Let's move into some musical needities. I'll give that. I don't have any hot takes this week, but if anybody has hot takes, feel free to throw them in there. But like musical neat things, let's go for it.
I have not a hot take. I would consider it a pod take.
Okay.
I'll explain. Given how we've ranked other albums, I had a harder time ranking this album in terms of consistency.
Okay.
Because there are some
Fair.
albums that we've had that some of our ranking has been affected by the change in genre, the change in mood, the change in tone. And I think the way that they dive in to each different style causes me to rank this higher. than some
Okay.
of those other
okay.
albums.
Yeah, like Brothers in Arms. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think this is another one of those albums that, like, even some of the very early albums we were reviewing have those operatic musical themes.
Sure.
That really, even though this one doesn't quite have the full story, it's definitely a story being told.
Yeah.
Just kind of without some of the pieces.
It's like Queen meets
Well,
Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
Well,
I
it's
can
actually
see that.
interesting that you mentioned that, because in 1977, Queen had an album come out that featured "We Will Rock You" and "We Are the Champions," and Bruce Springsteen had an album come out called "Darkness on the Edge of Town."
Oh.
Released at the beginning of '78, but in that same
Same
time
period.
frame.
That's crazy.
Just some of the I jumped right in. I used that as a segue. The competition in 76 to 78 is bananas.
Yeah.
The Bee Gees, Saturday Night Fever. We've talked about this album.
I know that one.
ABBA, the album. Oh my gosh. The Clash, Sex Pistols, Out of the Blue by ELO. David Bowie's Heroes, Pink Floyd's Animals. We've already talked about Fleetwood Mac's Rumors.
Wow. Yeah.
And Styx, The Grand Illusion.
Yeah. Well, if you push back just a little bit, it was 75 that the Queen Night of the Opera came out.
Yeah.
So,
Man.
like, you have all of these mega albums at the same time.
Yeah.
I think I had just not so much like musical needities, but just because it is kind of like a musical of sorts.
Yeah.
I thought it was really neat. It was Bean's least favorite part, but the play-by-play announcement.
I liked it a lot.
Did anybody look up to see who did that?
I don't know his name.
Wasn't it an old Yankees announcer?
No. So it was, well, actually he might have done some announcing. Let me double check. It was Rizzuto, Phil Rizzuto. It's not actually Phil Scooter Rizzuto. He might have done some announcing.
I think he was, because I looked this up.
But he's in the Hall of Fame. Like, he's a Hall of Fame baseball player.
yeah.
He's played for 13 years with the Yankees.
Okay.
And in 1994 was inducted into the baseball Hall of Fame. And it's just like, they just got like a Hall of Fame baseball player just to pop in, do a little play-by-play for the Meat Loaf album, which I think is incredible. Also, there are members of the New York Philharmonic and the Philadelphia Orchestra that were brought in to record this album.
Oh, man.
I just want to know. I know a lot of classical musicians. I want to know what these guys were thinking when they were like, hey, so do you want to go on this album by Meat Loaf?
That's a very classical sounding name.
Kind of a below the line of musical production guys. He was on a lot of big things, so his name was out there with Steinman, but he wasn't like creme de la creme, at least at the moment.
It wasn't a household name.
Yeah, but then you're gonna get the New York Philharmonic and the Philadelphia Orchestra, which are two of the greatest classical groups of performers to record on this album.
Yeah. And he also had Bruce Springsteen's keyboard player, Roy Bittan, and drummer Max Weinberg on this album.
Yeah.
So it's like a bunch of random people to make this album. It's like, dude, this is like the Tenacious D of the 70s.
What?
That is an amazing description, actually. I don't like how good that actually was.
That's amazing.
Because you got Jack Black and Kyle Gass, or Tenacious D, and then Dave Grohl did the drums.
Yeah.
I forget who did anything else, but yeah, that's, oh my gosh, that works so well.
I think also this is less of a musical take, but kind of just in the genre of just neat things that this album did. I'd just like to say, it went 17 times platinum in New Zealand, which I think is incredible.
Wow.
It's that MTV, baby.
Yeah, no, listen, 26 time platinum in Australia, 2 times diamond in Canada, 2 times platinum in Denmark, platinum in Germany, platinum in the Netherlands, 17 times platinum in New Zealand, 12 times platinum in the UK, and 14 times platinum in the US.
Yeah, okay, but what do they consider platinum?
It's different
It's
because it's
different,
based
yeah.
on the number of people that live
per
there.
capita.
So, like, it's 70 times platinum, but the certified sales there is 255,000.
So it's like
where
the
in the
Electoral
US
College.
it's 14 times, but it's 14 million.
Yeah.
So,
Australia's 26, but his one
it's just over a million.
Yeah.
They're almost 2
close.
million.
Yeah.
So I just think that's
Wow.
just a really neat how it kind of blew up in all these different places that I'm like, I feel like their vibes are very different. I don't feel like this is the same vibe. If
Yeah.
you're like, oh yeah, it blew up in the US and Canada or in England, it's like, okay, yeah, there's a lot of like listening to the same music. But like the Netherlands and New Zealand's getting in on the action, I think is very interesting.
Yeah. And Germany's best-selling
Wow.
album is Dirty Dancing soundtrack. So take that as you will.
That's incredible.
I'd love to hear a German cover of a lot of those songs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed.
I don't know about that. I don't think I want to hear that.
So there was something that as I was listening to this album that really caught me off guard, and then it caught me off guard again, and then I just fell in love with it. One thing when they must have been recording this album is they get to All Revved Up with No Place to Go, and somebody just goes, you know what would be cool? A saxophone.
Yeah.
And they did it. And if I'm remembering correctly, there's not a saxophone in the rest of the album.
It's in 3 tracks, but it's
3
less.
tracks.
It's in 2, 4,
I'm
and
deaf,
6,
but okay.
which is
Oh,
Took the
Paradise
Words Right Out of Your
Word,
Mouth.
That's right. That's right.
Revved Up, and I guess technically that would be Paradise
by the
Dashboard.
Dashboard
Then,
Light.
But
I guess what I'm remembering is the saxophone solo.
Yeah, there's only one solo.
In
It's
All
like in
Revved
the
Up.
background.
It's fantastic. Like you get halfway through that song and it's like, you know what tells the people that we're revved up? A saxophone
Sax.
The saxophone.
solo. It was awesome. I loved it. And at first I was like, what? And then I was like,
No.
oh, okay, I can see. And then by my third listen, I was like, this man, I keep coming back for this song.
I feel like this album, if you just let its weirdness be, is probably one of the best albums that we've listened to
Yeah.
so far. And I'm sure that'll lead into our faves and least faves on Album Ranker. But before we move too far along, what do we have any other like major highlights, things we've missed, things that you're like, we cannot go on?
Well,
without saying
I don't think we've really talked about how long each song is.
Oh,
And
yeah.
one thing that that I've noticed in this, doing this podcast is that when there's these really long 10-minute songs, the only thing that really justifies that is it being like a narrative, musical, operatic sort of progression
Yeah.
rather than just like playing the music just to hear yourself playing.
Yeah.
Like
Something that's
like
stagnant.
I won't say their name, but Brothers in Arms did that. But I think that this is, even though the songs are really long, you're never sort of bored. You're always engaged.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and even like modern songs, I was thinking of Green Day. Their album American Idiot. They've got one song on there called Jesus of Suburbia that's like 9 minutes long, and that album has literally been made into like a musical opera sort of thing, and they toured for a while like that. But yeah, there's another album where there's really long songs, but it was still very engaging, and I think that's telling.
No, you definitely relate it to a lot of like Bohemian Rhapsody. Like people don't mind it being like 8 minutes because it's 8 minutes of really like 4 2-minute segments. not exactly, but like there's the segments. People love American Pie because even though American Pie stays a lot more narrow in its genre, like there's so much like broadness to each section. Like there's a fast tempo section, there's a slow time, and there's like where it's just kind of vocals, and then where it's like full band, and all of these movements. And I think throughout it, obviously you get a lot of it from a guy that has written for musicals and has these massive segments, where it's kind of funny how Jared's quote earlier, how he's complaining about the writing of the song being not A B C B C C, but like A F
Like
B D
Elemento.
F G, and it's like, yes, it is all those things because it fills the space, like it fills your time, and makes it feel. Even though it's technically only 7 songs, it's like a 12 to 14 song album.
Yeah.
Just several of the songs are one big piece.
Yeah.
And Clive Davis apparently didn't know how the alphabet works.
No.
True.
No, I did not.
True.
And this might segue into faves, least faves, but the fact that they're so long and the fact that they're so dynamic makes it really difficult to pick a favorite or least favorite song, because there's like, I like this part of the song, but I don't love this part of the song.
Yeah.
So, then let's start there. Let's start with least favorites today.
Oh, man.
And I think that'll help us get through to our favorites.
As if we don't normally start with least favorites.
I know, but there's a reason for it this time.
Yeah.
Not like there's not a reason other times, but especially this time. So, Jarrett, because you seem very enthralled to answer me.
He's uppity.
Sounds threatening almost.
I'm threatening you with saying your least favorite song. What would you say was your somehow least favorite or least favorite portion of a song?
I would say Heaven Can Wait was a bit of a dip for me.
Okay.
I can see that. I mean, it wasn't a single, so
yeah, it didn't need to be there. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know. It just like you get out of the groove of, you took the words right out of my mouth, and then having like I like this album, but that for me like it was just a dip, and that's all right.
Well, I'll because I kind of fired some shots at you. So we fired some shots at you right at the beginning. I will go ahead and just say that I agree, because Heaven Can Wait was probably my least favorite as well. So you are not alone in your thing. Dan, what would you say your least favorite is?
It was not Heaven Can Wait. I love a good ballad. I love a good ballad.
For crying out loud.
It wasn't that one either. It was probably, and like we talked about this before the recording, that beginning of Hot Summer Night, I just it messes me up every time.
Yeah.
To have somebody in your ear just going, on a hot summer night, would you offer your throat to the wolf with the red roses? Yes. Like,
Let
no,
him give me
I
his
don't.
teeth.
No, I would not.
Like, no. Again,
That-
will
yeah.
he offer me his hunger? Yes. No.
I will agree. That is my least favorite portion too.
Yeah. If I had to pick a portion specifically, it's that. That would be my least favorite.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Beans, what do you
That's
got?
fair. That's that part of you took the words right out of my mouth. That did make my skin crawl, but then I was like, I kind of like it. Kind of like my skin crawling around and stuff. But that's
said no one ever.
That's not my. That's just to say that's not my least favorite.
It's not
But
your
my
cup of
least
tea, but you
favorite-
would drink it.
Yeah, if it was there and nobody was looking, I might drink it. But but I want to say my least favorite portion was, I think this is within Paradise by Dashboard Light, but the baseball thing was.
Hate
The
on
home
Phil
run scene.
Rizzuto.
I didn't love
Hall
it.
of Fame.
It made my skin crawl in a bad way.
A man has died to make that happen, and you're just trashing on him.
Whatever are you talking about?
The scooter is dead. He's been dead for a while. but I just
Oh,
But he didn't die because
didn't even
of
know
I
it-
still take
recording.
offense to that.
I didn't even
I
know he
will
was
say
sick.
he was the radio guy, television and radio for the Yankees, and he was the guy that would say "Holy cow!"
Hmm.
That was
Yeah.
his trademark.
Steven
But
heard
I
that
just
and
thought-
said, "Oh no."
Yeah, no, but I just thought it was. I just thought it was cheesy, and I'm trying to listen to music, and all of a sudden I got to listen to sports. I'm not a sports guy, if you didn't know by my whole demeanor and personality.
No, would not have known. Please
Yeah.
elaborate. No.
Still, by looking at him, he's never done ballet in his life.
Yeah, but I didn't
All
mind
right.
a lot of the other parts of that song, but just that
That's
part I didn't like it.
Well, then I'll let you lead us in. What would you say was your favorite instead, Beans?
Bat out of hell.
Ah, that's a good pick.
Yeah.
That's a good pick.
Big
And it
fan.
was
Diagonally.
that what did he say? Diagonally. Yeah, Bat Out of Hell was really great. I especially like the parts where he says "Bat Out of Hell," like that. Just that it's a very accelerating chorus, and I love the harmonies on it. It was
This podcast will be explicit.
That reminds me to tell y'all something after we're done recording.
sorry. I meant to say "Bat Out of Heck." I
Yeah.
didn't mean to.
Bad
Sorry
out of
about
flick.
All right.
Yeah, that's my favorite song.
I'm gonna go ahead and ask myself because I want to steal this early. Jason, what was your favorite? Well,
Hey, Jason.
thank you for asking, Jason. I would have to say,
Using his power, really.
as crazy and as wild as it was, Paradise by the Dashboard Light musically just is a marvelous spectacle of things. I'm not saying that I agree with what is happening in the
For sure.
in the story of that song, but nor do I agree with most of what happened in this album. But musically, I thought it was a wonderful time.
It's funny to disagree with the album.
I like
How do
disagreeing.
you disagree with music?
Yeah, but I can't disagree with good harmonies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Sure.
that's what I got. Jarrett, what you got?
This is tough because there's two songs I want to make it on there, and I don't know what Dan's gonna pick.
Well, since you don't know, Dan, let's hear yours.
All revved up and
There
no
you
place to go.
Okay, good.
Oh,
It's the saxophone, man.
It's the sax.
the
Yeah.
sax.
Oh man, sweet. So then that leaves me to go.
Where does that
Saxy.
lead you to go?
Oh gosh.
Honestly, you took the words right out of my mouth.
Ah,
Really?
My least favorite part is the beginning, but once you make it past that, like that,
Yeah, it's a fine
that
song.
gets stuck in your head.
yeah. No, it does get.
Yeah.
The song itself is a great song. It was another place in which my wife was like, what? Because we
As,
went through the weirdness of that, and then the way it comes in
Yeah.
right after that is not what you'd expect.
Does not fit.
Yeah. As someone who spent a few different summers living by the beach during college, the fog crawling over the sand was really cool.
Ooh,
really
it's nice imagery.
All right. Well, let's get to everybody's favorite portion of the episode.
Man.
Album ranker. Album
Dun,
ranker.
dun, dun, dun.
Album ranker.
Dun, 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 dun.
All right. Let's start with the one that wants to go first, who is Dan.
Ah, frick.
He said,
You
"Oh,
suck.
Rick."
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay. This one, this I think we're continually finding albums that are going to be like more and more challenging to place
Yeah.
because of what they offer.
Just so much. Yeah.
This for me is going at my number 3.
Wow.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
That's huge.
And
That's pretty
I
high.
almost put it at number 2 because of how well the longer songs evolve.
Yeah.
Like it felt like 12 tracks, not 7.
And you were going to let it pass up Led Zeppelin?
For a second I thought about it.
That's crazy.
For a second. And if I thought correctly the first time and put Led Zeppelin 1, it probably would be my number 2.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair. All right. Let's go Steve. Stevio. What do you got for us?
I'm looking at the column. I'm D, right? Column
You're D. Yep.
Okay. So,
Wait.
in that case, I will put it above Let's Talk About Love and below Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Okay.
Interesting.
So that's
I
your
didn't
number
love it.
13.
Yeah, I didn't. That's bad luck. But I didn't love. I didn't. I wasn't thrilled with this album. It was all right,
Interesting.
but I wasn't smitten with it.
Smitten.
Frick, I was.
Look at
Smitty.
Frick, man, I was smitten with this thing.
Jarrett, how smitten were you with this album?
I'm going to put it between Born in the USA and Appetite for Destruction at my number 10.
Interesting.
Wow.
I like this album a lot more than you guys did.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm actually, Jarrett, I'm going to follow your lead, but in a new way, and also go just above Appetite for Destruction, but that makes it my number 5, just below Accurate. That's where I'm going to go.
Okay.
I love that the two guys that went to music school put the operatic album as their really high scoring one.
If you will notice, The Wall is at my number 1, so
Yep.
I would like to invite you to suck it.
Hey, Steven, Jared didn't give you any flack for this one, so
That's fair.
we're not in such
So
weird territory yet.
let's
No.
because we've gotten so large in this list, we actually have all the way up to 20. Is that where we're at?
Yeah.
There might be 21 albums because there might be a tie, but let's just do top 10.
We're at
Let's
20.
see here. Number 10. Wait, let me make sure I'm reading this in the right order.
Mm-hmm.
My screens are doing crazy things. All right. Number 10, Appetite for Destruction. Number 9, Supernatural. Number 8, do we have an 8 or is there a tie for 7? There's a tie for 7.
Tie for 7.
Bad Out of Hell is tied with Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Wow.
Interesting.
That's at 7. Number 6 is Metallica. Number 5 doesn't exist because there's a tie for 4 between Bad and 21. Number 3 is Rumors. Number 2 is still Abbey Road. And number 1, Led Zeppelin 4, which is interesting because it's number 4 instead. It's number 1. But that is our consensus rankings so far.
That is crazy.
Bad Out of Hell makes the top 10.
Yeah.
Number 7.
The Wall is
I was hoping it
number
would.
1.
Yes.
But it does not. It doesn't put it in the top 10.
That's crazy. It's because of somebody else here in this podcast.
Somebody.
Which, if we removed him, I think we'd have a much better consensus ranking. But
I'm
not
sorry,
his
Dan.
whole list, just his ranking of The Wall.
This
It's
guy,
beyond
his outlier.
It's beyond the statistical mean. It's an outlier and does not count.
Man.
He liked it more than The Wall, this album. So that is what it is.
Yeah.
That being said, let me pass it to Dan to tell us what are we doing next? What's our next album?
We
What are we
get to
going
listen
to?
to the babe herself, Shania Twain, and her album Come On Over. I am so excited for this album. I've been looking forward to this from the beginning. Oh my gosh.
That's my favorite R&B album.
Is it?
I mean, if Beyonce can win Country Album of the Year, I honestly have
fair
no idea what country music is. So
fair enough.
Steven, do you know what country music is?
It's when you like lasso a goat and you.
thank you, Stephen. That concludes this episode of the G.O.A.T Pod. If you enjoyed this or didn't, feel free to let us know by emailing us at thegoatpodemail@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram at thegoat_pod. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time.